Dion, thanks very much.
And an aging astronaut.
Over 83 experiments were executed, and almost all were at or over 100% successful.
Glenn's wife says it'll be nice to have him home again.
It's just really touching to know the people, attention of all ages to this.
NASA doctors canceled tonight's scheduled press conference with the astronauts and rescheduled it for tomorrow. They said they gave Glenn a 4-hour medical checkup and his health appears fine, but he was just too tired to face the media. Even though he's back on the ground, Glenn will still undergo months of medical tests to measure the effects of the space flight on a body almost 8 decades old. Julie?
All right, Craig, thank you. In San Francisco today, a group of pie-throwing protesters interrupted a press conference by Mayor Willie Brown. The mayor was just about to make an announcement in front of City Hall about the future of the 49ers when he was hit with a big surprise.
And that's the San Francisco...
The mayor tackled one of the pie throwers until police could arrest him. After officers led the 3 suspects away, the mayor cleaned off the cherry, tofu, and pumpkin goo and got back to business.
There have been questions about whether or not we would build the 49ers Stadium after you, the voters, did what you did in June of '97 by giving us the authorization to so do it. Well, I'm here tonight, this morning, to announce that yes, we will be doing the stadium. All right. And there's a significant step to be taken in that direction.
49ers acting president Larry Threlkeld said the team would agree not to terminate its Candlestick lease early and build the new stadium as promised. The announcement and the pie throwing came as the mayor launched his annual Great Swoop cleanup of San Francisco. The protesters said they targeted the mayor because of the, quote, skyrocketing level of evictions in the city. There's a lot more still to come on tonight.
Coming up next on the 10 o'clock news, a live report with the latest information on a fatal bomb blast that ripped through a van on a quiet Bay Area street.
Oakland firefighters are battling a 4-alarm fire at this hour. These are late pictures just back from the scene.
A snowboarder is rescued after spending a freezing night lost in the Tahoe wilderness.
And the White House defense completes its opening arguments in the impeachment trial. Now it's the senators' turn to get into the act themselves.
The 10 o'clock news is next.
Tomorrow on Mornings on 2.
You've seen Gidget, the Taco Bell dog. Now meet the man behind the pooch. Yo quiero, Mornings on 2.
Join the Bay Area's #1 morning team. In-depth interviews and the news you need. Mornings on 2. Tomorrow at 7.
Investigators say they know what caused the explosion that tore apart this van and killed a person. Now they want to know why. We'll have a live report.
San Francisco police say he was one of the best, an officer killed not during but following a shootout.
Now that both sides have completed their opening arguments, what happens next in the impeachment trial of President Clinton?
And why is the state of California hatching thousands of tiny Chinook salmon, only to sacrifice them before they're released in the wild? Those stories, all the news on this Thursday night, January 21st, 1999.
And now, the award-winning 10 o'clock news on Channel 2, the #1 primetime newscast in the country.
Good evening, I'm Leslie Griffith.
And I'm Dennis Richmond. The FBI tonight has joined the investigation into a deadly bomb blast that shattered a quiet Pacifica neighborhood early this morning. The explosion ripped apart a van and killed one person. Tui Vu is in Pacifica with late details in this live report. Tui?
Dennis, investigators spent the night continuing to search for evidence at the scene of the explosion. They found more body parts under the white van that blew up on the 300 block of Monterey Road. Agents from the FBI and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms have been out at the scene since early this morning. The explosion happened at about 3:20 a.m. One person was killed. Investigators have not determined yet if the person was a man or woman. Neighbors say the explosion was a rude awakening.
I knew that it wasn't a car backfire. It was maybe about 10 times as loud as a car backfire. And it was a very all-encompassing boom.
The cargo door, whatever, the sliding door, whatever that was, but that was gone. I mean, it was in the front yard.
And we started looking around a little bit to see if there's anybody there. And that's a piece of the leg right there on the sidewalk.
11 families were evacuated from the area. More than a dozen agents scoured the scene for evidence. The street was searched bit by bit. At one point, agents even climbed to the top of a roof. Investigators say they are not sure whether the person who was killed was inside the van or standing next to it.
It's my understanding that it was inside the van. Preliminary investigation revealed it was inside the van.
Investigators say it may take some time before they can determine the identity of the body.
The body sustained significant damage to dismember it.
I got home from work and some lady that lives right next door to where it happened, they had her stop right here in my driveway, and they go to start picking things off the hood of her car, and I guess it was fragments of the explosion, and it was just disgusting.
Authorities know who the white van is registered to, but they are not revealing whether they have found that person. They do say, however, that the van is apparently not connected to the house it was parked in front of. The mystery has many residents asking themselves what is going on.
I'm sure everybody's had that thought, wondering who was the target.
Late tonight, the evacuated families were allowed to return. The coroner will conduct an autopsy tomorrow. Investigators hope to know then the identity of the person who was killed. Now, about 15 minutes ago, agents cleared the crime scene here and took down the police tape. The people who live on the street say they will try to get a good night's sleep, though that may be hard to do, given what has happened. Dennis, Leslie.
Tweevu, thank you.
Oakland firefighters are battling a 4-alarm fire at this hour. The fire is inside the Bluebird Body Shop at Fruitvale and East 12th Street in Oakland. Smoke is pouring out of the now broken windows of the 2-story structure, with most of the actual flames coming from the center of the facility. The fire was first reported around 8:30 tonight. As soon as fire crews got to the scene, they called for more assistance. The 4-alarm fire appears to be under control at this hour, but fire officials say that crews will stay on the scene all night long in case it flares up again. There are no damage estimates at this hour, but the building appears to be completely gutted. A new poll out tonight says the lack of affordable housing is now the #1 problem facing people in San Francisco. Realtors say that doesn't surprise them.
Coming up next on the 10 o'clock news, a manhunt for a suspected double murderer is going on in the Santa Cruz Mountains at this hour. We'll have a live report.
People in Israel are celebrating tonight. They've elected a new prime minister. What does it mean to the Middle East peace process?
What made the stock market fall today could do the same thing tomorrow, and it's making investors nervous. We'll have details.
And what happens when you don't like any of your political choices? Now there's a new push to allow you to vote. None of the above.
The 10 o'clock news is next.
Clothes don't fit.
Clothes never fit anybody.
Can't find the right size pants most of the time.
Imagine getting a perfect fit without searching the racks.
I would love that.
This scanner could be the answer.
Perfect idea.
KTVU's John Fowler shows you why shopping may never be the same. Fit for the future. Next on the original 10 o'clock news.
A man suspected of killing 2 people is the object of an intense manhunt tonight in the Santa Cruz Mountains. A live report is coming up.
Friends of a young Bay Area woman post flyers alerting the public that she has been missing now for 3 days.
Parents and students crowd a school board meeting in Fremont. A budget crisis there could force the closure of 10 schools.
And tomorrow is Bike to Work Day. Will Bay Area residents park their cars at home and pursue pedal power instead? Those stories, all the news on this Monday night, May 17th, 1999.
And now, the award-winning 10 o'clock news on Channel 2. The #1 primetime newscast in the country.
Good evening, I'm Leslie Griffith.
And I'm Dennis Richmond. A manhunt is underway in the Santa Cruz Mountains tonight for an ex-convict suspected of killing 2 people in a Los Gatos home. Authorities say the suspect is a sex offender on parole from San Quentin Prison. Robert Honda is at the police command post along Highway 17 with late details. Robert?
Well, Dennis, we're here in the Santa Cruz Mountains where search teams, even as we're speaking, are still looking for the suspect who slipped away from officers earlier this afternoon. Now, law enforcement agencies have been swarming the area here near Summit Road off Highway 17 today for nearly 9 hours. Now, police say 41-year-old Larry Roman Lavelle of Campbell killed his ex-wife, Suzanne Snyder and her friend Howard Biederman yesterday afternoon, stabbing them to death with a kitchen knife.
Ms. Snyder called 911 and advised our dispatchers that her ex-husband was in the house and that he wouldn't leave. Our dispatchers overheard through the phone line a scuffle and heard her say repeatedly, "No, no, no," several times.
Police arrived at the home on Hicks Road in Los Gatos just 8 minutes later, but said it was too late. The suspect had fled. Susan Snyder died on the way to the hospital. Howard Biederman was dead at the scene.
He probably didn't even know what was going on with her ex or anything. He just was at the wrong place at the wrong time, and it's very sad.
A Bay Area-wide alert went out on Lavelle, a convicted sex offender who was described as armed and dangerous. The alert led to the search in the mountains by numerous SWAT teams and search crews. Lavelle's car was found at the Redwood Estate store in the Santa Cruz Mountains, and a clerk there says he did buy food and supplies. Lavelle has been described as a survivalist, and that made search teams move cautiously, inspecting every car as it left the area. This resident says she found herself in his path.
And he just kind of spun around in front of my car, and as I looked up the road, I could see an officer with her gun drawn, and he just kept going.
What could you tell about his demeanor or what he was doing?
He was crazed. He looked like he just didn't know where to go, you know, what to do or where to go.
Where did you see him go last?
Running down the road.
SWAT teams and search crews continued to comb the brush for hours, but late tonight, officers say that one glimpse was all they'd seen of Lavelle.
All he told the deputy was, "I'm the man you're looking for, I'm Larry Lavelle."
Any reason why she didn't shoot?
It's an area where we leave to the officer's discretion. There are no hard and fast lines towards engaging a suspect with firearms.
Well, since that one sighting, officials here acknowledge they have not seen Lavelle, so authorities still want the public to be on alert. They had planned to keep the 10-square-mile perimeter maintained through the night, but just a few minutes ago I talked to Luther Pugh of the Santa Clara County Sheriff's Department, and he says they will wrap up the search for tonight. So there will be some key points along Highway 17 and along the Summit Road, but right now the search crews are calling it off. Dennis, Leslie.
Robert Honda, thank you.
Another type of search is underway in San Francisco tonight. This one is for a missing 24-year-old woman.
Coming up on the new news, a 15-year-old goes on a shooting rampage at a school near Atlanta. Several students are injured.
A loud, angry, and tense strike at a Bay Area airport this morning. Details in a live report.
An emotional appeal today from family and friends of a missing woman from Walnut Creek.
Plus, a breaking story in San Francisco about the discovery of a body in China Basin at noon.
Two major construction jobs have come to a halt due to a wildcat strike. Details in a live report.
Another school shooting, this time near Atlanta, 1 month to the day after Columbine.
And how technology is helping one part of nature, but hurting another. Those stories and much more next on the new news.
Live from the award-winning Channel 2 newsroom, the new news.
Good afternoon, I'm Tori Campbell.
And I'm Frank Somerville. We begin with a breaking story. Police in San Francisco have found the body of a white person. They are not saying whether that body is male or female, but the body was found in China Basin. We do have a reporter on the scene, and we'll have details in just a few minutes. One of the questions, of course, is could this body be that of Julie Sun? She has been missing since Friday night, last seen at a bar in San Francisco. Today, family and friends held an emotional news conference pleading for her safe return. Dan Springer is live in our newsroom now and joins us with more. Dan?
Well, Frank and Tori, obviously nobody knows yet if that body is Julie Day's, but the latest development obviously has everyone involved in this case very worried. But it's not slowing down the family's intense search for Julie Day. Right now in San Francisco, family and friends are passing out flyers at a key BART station. It's where Julie Day would have likely tried to get on a train Friday night to return home to Walnut Creek. Meantime, police focus on a blurry yet crucial piece of evidence. Police say this is the man they're looking for, a man they say who unsuccessfully tried to use Julie Day's ATM card at 3 different San Francisco locations. The attempts were made early Saturday morning, not long after Day was last seen leaving the Bubble Lounge and getting into a yellow taxi cab.
We don't recognize him. The family does not recognize that man. And if people out there, given it is a difficult picture to see, but if people out there think it might be someone they know, someone they've seen working in the next office building or working down the hall, please call the police and let them decide if that's the guy or not.
Day's family and friends held an early morning news conference asking for the public's continued support and at times sending a message directly to Julie.
Julie, we love you very much. You don't even know how much is out here. You keep tough. We're coming to get you.
If Julie is watching, sweetheart, just hang in there. We're going to get you back.
Meantime, their volunteer effort grows. Already more than 10,000 flyers have been handed out. A website draws more potential leads, but so far there's only been frustration. Day's family, though, remains hopeful.
Keep the prayers coming. I feel it works, okay?
If that's going to be a problem.
The Day family plans on continuing its effort to keep the story in the public eye. Tomorrow they'll hold a candlelight vigil walking from the Justice Herman Plaza to the Bubble Lounge on Montgomery Street. But obviously, Frank and Tori, the story right now is, will police be able to determine soon if that body is Julie Day's or not? Police still have not told us even if it's a male or a female, but we understand that it's a body of a blonde person, and a black jacket was found near the woman. Reporting live in the newsroom, I'm Dan Springer. Frank and Tori, back to you.
All right, thank you, Dan. And as Dan and Frank had mentioned earlier, the body of a white person has been found in China Basin in San Francisco. Brian Bammiller is there on the scene right now and joins us with a live update. Brian?
Yes, Tori, just under an hour ago, police were called to the scene here. It's a construction scene right in the shadow of China Basin. And right now they are behind the fence there, taking a look at the body that was found in the midst of a bunch of rubble. It apparently looks like it was found by one of the contractors that's working out here, who called the police, and then they called the fire department to the scene. Right now, the San Francisco medical examiner's there taking a look at the body to see if they can make some positive identification of who it is. And this is what the captain on the scene had to say to me, Captain Roth, just moments ago.
All the help we need responding right now.
Can you tell if it's a woman?
I can't tell. It appears like it might be, but I can't tell at this moment.
What's the next step in your procedure now?
Well, the next step is we're going to wait for the forensic people to come out, and we're going to analyze the location, and we'll look for evidence and determine what happened.
How was the body found?
I'm not sure yet. I just got here.
Who found this?
I'm not certain.
Construction workers. Do we know what this property is?
No, I'm not sure.
Okay. Thank you, Captain. And Captain, your name is?
That was Captain Ruff from the San Francisco Police Department, who had just arrived on the scene about 15 minutes ago. So said the medical examiner is here. This crime scene, they are just now starting to put the strips around the crime scene. This is less than a half an hour old. Of course, the first concern for everyone is that this could possibly be Julie Christine Day, but there is no word of that at all. They indicated could possibly be a woman, but they cannot confirm that at this moment. And forensics is in there now trying to see if they can make some sort of an identification. And again, we are not sure yet, and hope it's not everybody's worst fear. Frank and Tori.
All right, Brian Bammiller live in San Francisco with a breaking story. We'll continue to follow that. If we get any new information, we'll be sure to pass it along. As we reported earlier, a 15-year-old sophomore in Georgia today shot and wounded at least 6 students at a school outside of Atlanta. Eyewitnesses say the gunman was armed with a rifle and a revolver. Sean Calebs is at the school in Conyers, Georgia, and filed this report just minutes ago.
Hours after the shooting, federal and state investigators are still combing the grounds in and around Heritage High School. Now, a while ago, warrants issued, and authorities are soon going to be examining the suspect's locker as well as his home. Authorities are trying to find clues and see if anyone had prior knowledge of this shooting. 6 students were wounded at Heritage High School, 25 miles east of Atlanta. A 15-year-old sophomore is in custody. Eyewitnesses say he fired several shots from a .22 caliber rifle into a group of hundreds of students.
First I thought it was like a cat gun or something fake, you know, just a senior prank or something. And I saw him get shot, and so we all took off running out of the commons area.
The 6 injured students were rushed to area hospitals. The Rockdale County Sheriff's Department says the rifle had apparently been altered.
It looks like the stock has possibly been removed, but it is a rifle, probably 18 or 20 inches long.
Authorities went to search the boy's home and his school locker, looking for clues as to what could have triggered the shooting, and they're trying to find out if anyone else knew about this crime ahead of time. After the shooting stopped, the young gunman apparently put the weapon in his mouth. Vice Principal Cecil Brinkley is credited with convincing the student to drop the weapon. The shooting came a month to the day after the tragedy at Columbine High School, where 13 students were killed before the two suspects took their own lives.
It was scary because since the Columbine, you know, all that stuff happened, we didn't think anything like that would happen around here.
Today was the last scheduled day for classes for seniors. School administrators here say they are going to work hard to reestablish some sort of normalcy at this school. They say that finals and next Friday's graduation will go on as planned. In Conyers, Georgia, I'm Sean Calebs. Now back to you.
Just hours after that shooting near Atlanta, Vice President Al Gore cast a tie-breaking vote to tighten restrictions on gun sales at gun shows. Democrats are calling this a huge victory for anyone who supports gun control. KTVU reporter Tracy Mitchell joins us live from Washington, D.C. now with the latest. Afternoon, Tracy.
Good afternoon, Frank and Tori. That definitely was a victory here in Washington, but the debate is continuing on that juvenile violence bill. Now, today, President Clinton has put pressure on Congress to try to pass even tougher laws to keep guns away from kids. President Clinton left the White House today deeply troubled because more blood has been spilled in one of the nation's schools.
We thank God that the injuries to the students do not seem to be life-threatening. This incident again should underscore how profoundly important it is that all Americans come together in the face of these events to protect all of our children from violence.
The law didn't protect students and a teacher at Columbine High School in Colorado. A month ago today, 2 students took over the school and killed 13 people before turning the guns on themselves. Today, President Clinton and the First Lady will meet with the survivors of the tragedy, as well as relatives of the dead. They're calling for tougher gun laws.
Now, it's apparent that we have to do something about this, and this bill is a very, very considered attempt to do exactly that.
It's a struggle lawmakers face today as they debate the juvenile justice bill. And now more than ever, there's a sense of urgency to pass laws to keep guns out of the hands of children.
While we're compromising with the gun lobby, ambulances are rushing to Heritage High School to save children from another shooting. It is profoundly disheartening. How much longer are we going to embrace the gun lobby instead of the mothers and fathers of America?
Just hours after the shooting in Georgia, the Senate voted on a Democratic measure requiring background checks for anyone who buys a gun at a pawn shop or gun show. The vote was tied, but in a rare appearance, Vice President Al Gore presided over the Senate and casted the deciding vote.
On this vote, the yeas are 50, the nays are 50, the Senate being equally divided. The Vice President votes in the affirmative, and the amendment is agreed to.
Now, that was just one amendment passed.
Reports that investigators say they have hard evidence to link 3 suspects to the Yosemite tourist murder case.
Officials check to see if another massive rock slide could occur at Yosemite.
And a sneak preview of the Bay Area's newest place to have major high-tech fun. It's all coming up next on the Noon News.
Live from the award-winning Channel 2 newsroom, the Noon News.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Frank Somerville.
And I'm Tori Campbell. Federal investigators reportedly have physical evidence now tying 3 suspects to the killings of Carol and Julie Sund and their friend Silvina Peloso. Kim Yananaka has late details on this break in the case from Modesto.
The FBI has reportedly seized incriminating fibers and other physical evidence that is apparently being used to help confirm verbal statements allegedly made by several key suspects. The new information comes from an article in the San Francisco Chronicle citing sources close to the investigation. One of those under suspicion for the murders of Carol and Julie Sund and Silvina Peloso is ex-con Eugene Dykes. Dykes has already allegedly admitted his role in the killings. 3 other suspects are also reportedly talking to federal investigators. It's not known if Dykes' half-brother, accused cop shooter Michael Larwick, is one of them. The other 2 possible suspects are Billy Strange and Daryl Stevens. All allegedly belong to a violent drug-using group made up of ex-cons in the Central Valley. The FBI has not formally named anyone in this case, but Carol Carrington says she's confident the people responsible are off the streets. I may celebrate then when there's an arrest because I do feel that probably the people that are involved are in jail on other charges. So I do feel a little better about that. The Carringtons arrived in Modesto last night for a fundraising dinner. They've established the Carol Sund Memorial Reward Foundation to help other families of murder victims. While the Carringtons focus their energy on this new foundation, FBI agents move forward with this case, reportedly investigating whether the women were the victims of a carjacking in Modesto or possibly in Tuolumne County, or if they were kidnapped near Cedar Lodge in El Portal, where they were last seen February 15th.
All 4 of the possible suspects are being held on unrelated charges, including Michael Larwick, who remains here at the Stanislaus County Jail. FBI officials have yet to name any suspects specifically, and there is no word yet on when any formal charges will be filed. In Modesto, Kim Yonanaka for the Noon News.
A National Park Service geologist today is inspecting the cliffs at Yosemite National Park where a rock slide killed a climber Sunday night. Emergency crews yesterday recovered the body of 22-year-old Peter Turbush from Colorado. Officials say he died of head injuries when he was hit by a falling boulder. Turbush and 2 friends were climbing on the cliffs below Glacier Point when 100 tons of rock gave way. Turbush's climbing companions say he saved them from being hit, but it ended up costing him his life. The geologist today will try to figure out if the cliff is sufficiently stable now to reopen the climbing area that's near Curry Village.
President Clinton heads to Germany today to meet with European leaders. The trip is expected to focus on the Kosovo peacekeeping mission and the Serb troop withdrawal, which now appears to be on schedule, though not always in a peaceful fashion. Tracy Mitchell joins us from our Washington, D.C. bureau with the latest. Tracy?
Well, Tori and Frank, the Serb forces now have only 3 hours to meet their first deadline, and NATO believes that will happen. Serb soldiers are still in Kosovo, but they're moving out quickly. By the end of the day, they have to be out of southern Kosovo. And by the end of the week, they have to be out of all of Kosovo. NATO says the Serb forces are withdrawing on time.
We have absolutely nothing to indicate that that will not happen.
As the Serb soldiers leave, homes are being torched and looted. NATO peacekeepers are driving by those areas and searching for landmines. Today, relief workers handed out pamphlets to teach refugees about landmines and warn them that going home now isn't safe. Still, thousands of refugees packed their bags and headed back to Kosovo. For some, the journey has already been deadly.
This morning we had an incident in which 2 people were killed and 1 elderly man was badly injured in a landmine accident as they were trying to cross the border illegally over the mountains.
As ethnic Albanians flood the borders to return to Kosovo, there is a new refugee exodus. Serb civilians are leaving on tractors and buses. Many say they're afraid of the ethnic Albanians and especially of the Kosovo Liberation Army. Today, KLA forces came out of hiding and headed into Kosovo. They're setting up camp to stay. The Pentagon says NATO is still working on plans to disarm them.
One of the goals that NATO has is to demilitarize the KLA. The KLA has said that it will honor the agreement. It has said that they will not harass Serb troops on the way out, and generally they have honored that part of the agreement.
Meanwhile, more Russian troops are headed to Kosovo, even though their government said it wouldn't happen. Russia says the troops are bringing much-needed food and fuel to the Russian soldiers who have taken over the Kosovo airport. NATO allies say they're not worried.
We'll see what happens, but this is a small group of soldiers bringing in supplies in 11 vehicles, and it seems reasonable.
Now, while NATO works out the details of the peacekeeping mission, it seems a very influential church in Yugoslavia, the Serbian Orthodox Church, is calling for Yugoslav President Slobodan Milosevic and his entire government to resign. That's the very latest from Washington. I'm Tracy Mitchell. Frank and Tori, back to you.
Okay, Tracy. In Alameda County, sheriff's investigators are searching for a gunman they say robbed a large Castro Valley drugstore earlier this morning and tied up 2 employees. Police arrived at the Rite Aid pharmacy on East Castro Valley Boulevard at about 6:30 this morning. They said they found 6 workers inside, including the store manager and another employee who were tied up. However, at that point, the gunman was long gone. The robber reportedly had a handgun and a knife and got away with an unspecified amount of money.
Actually, their information came out that we had a hostage situation.
That turns out not to be the case, and once we got inside and got control of the scene, there wasn't a hostage situation. We thought that's why we're still checking, because we don't like to overlook the fact that we don't want to walk away from this guy and have the guy pop out of a box someplace. Fortunately, no one was hurt. Police say they are continuing their search now for the gunman.
It was a rough go on the Nimitz Freeway through Oakland this morning. The Highway Patrol says a man was killed while trying to cross Interstate 880 on foot. He was run over by a big rig about 4:45 this morning at Fruitvale Avenue. Police shut down 3 of the 4 southbound lanes for about 2.5 hours while the CHP investigated the accident. The man's identity has not been released, but police say he was a transient. The San Francisco Airport Commission is set to approve a controversial multi-million-dollar plan today that could bring SFO new runways. The $9 million plan hinges on the airport getting permission to fill 14 acres of wetlands for added runway space. In exchange, the Airport Commission will create new bay wetlands and restore another 472 acres of existing wetlands from San Francisco to Palo Alto. Meantime, a community forum on the airport runway expansion plan will also take place tonight in Mountain View as Center for Performing Arts.
It certainly looks like the force is with filmmaker George Lucas. His company, Lucasfilms, has grabbed development rights at the Presidio. Lucas plans...
Aircraft mechanics is critical. These are jobs where starting pay can exceed $35,000 a year plus.
I love it. Very exciting. Those annoying and seemingly never-ending calls from telemarketers have, well, they've rung Brian Copeland's bell one too many times. And Brian has something to say about that in today's commentary from Copeland's Corner.
One of the things that gets under my skin the most is when I'm sitting down to dinner with my family and I get a phone call on my unlisted number from Bob calling to tell me about an exciting offer. I've got an exciting offer for you too, Bob. Don't call my house again and I won't hunt you down like a dog. Or how about picking up the phone and it's not even a human being irritating you, it's a recording. Please hold for an important announcement. No, if it were that important, there'd be a person on the line. Or worse still, how about the telemarketer who won't take no for an answer? I'm not interested. You will be as soon as I tell you about all the advantages to... No, leave me alone. You'll never be left alone again if you buy... What are you, a pit bull? Take the hint. No. Telemarketers are the bane of society. They're not only intrusive and annoying, but they defraud people, mainly seniors, out of an estimated $40 billion a year. It's for that reason that I don't understand why the state legislature won't pass a law allowing people to be put on a don't call list. If I don't want to be hassled by strangers in my own home, I should have that right. And so should you. I'm Brian Copeland.
And finally, what would you do to win a free bed? In Australia, Rhonda can't even look at this. In Australia, several would-be bed winners hopped between the sheets with a boa constrictor. Can you believe this? The competitors had to spend at least 10 minutes in the bed with the snake, and this is just to qualify for the prize. The snake's owner joked the stunt was safe because the snake, quote, hasn't eaten anybody this week. And while, yeah, what a joke, huh? And while some people found snuggling with the snake a little repulsive, at least one competitor said he loved it. There's always one of those people in the crowd, isn't there?
Oh,
this is just to qualify for the bed.
Going up,
and you'd have to give me a heck of a lot more than a bed to sit in the bed.
Yeah, Rhonda, you can look now.
I just turned around now.
That'll do it for the new news. Dennis and Leslie will be here with us 10 o'clock news tonight.
And we'll see you tomorrow. Have a great afternoon, okay? Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
He's a man of the law, often outspoken, dispensing his version of justice. Judge Mills Lane, coming up next here on Fox 2.
So why are 2 New York State senators trying to stop legislation that would encourage, not require, encourage schools to adopt a program on gun safety? Okay, the program is sponsored by that group with a dirty name, NRA. But still, it doesn't sound bad to me. The program includes a cartoon character named Eddie Eagle who tells kids that if they see a gun, don't touch it, get an adult. Now, I'm no huge fan of the NRA, but what's the problem with that? And for the record, I don't own a gun, never have, never would, because I have small kids. That said, I've got to tell you that I think we may be going a bit overboard since Columbine. We have all of these groups complaining that guns are unsafe. Of course they're unsafe. That's why they're called guns. If they were supposed to be safe, they'd be called car seats. We're going overboard. I read a story last week about a high school girl who's being expelled for bringing nail clippers to class. They're considered a weapon, and the school has zero tolerance since Columbine. A weapon? What, are there wild gangs of manicurists terrorizing schools now? Oh, please, stop me before I clip again. What are we doing here? Whatever happened to common sense? I'm Brian Copeland.
Finally, here's looking at you, kid. Bogart did it a heck of a lot better, didn't he? Last night.